Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. It's the weekend. It's Saturday. Hope everyone's having a good day. I'm having a bit of a quiet one. Sorry I wasn't around yesterday. I've had an insanely busy couple of days with airport runs, dashing around the M25, which doesn't get any easier. I want to thank you, everybody, for your support. Before we go any further, we're getting there. We're getting there. Creeping towards that 100,000 subscriber mark. And I really, really am grateful for all your support and all your comments and encouragement. Speaking of comments, there's a load of them that I wanted to go through with this video and, have a discussion with you. A day or two ago, I brought you a video, and this is the thumbnail for it, about the reform meeting. I was invited to a local reform meeting, obviously Reform UK, where, and as we've seen in the news over recent days, they're talking about democratising the party, because obviously it was a limited company with Nigel Farage in control and all the rest of it you see in the news, and they're talking about democratising it so it becomes a proper political party. And part of that is grassroots, local stuff. What are people worried about? What do they want to see done? And so on and so on and so on. So I went to this meeting. I did a video on this. I'll leave a link in the description below so you can refresh your memory of what I had to say. But what I really wanted to do was go through your comments on that video and address your concerns and any points you may have. So here we go. Okay, first on the list, CJR434. Everyone I know voted reform. Other people say the same. Something fishy that Labour got in. Yeah, I sensed, or a lot of people I spoke to, even ex-Labour voters, were saying we're going to vote reform, yet Labour still got in. Now, I think this is a twofold problem. Number one, the disenfranchised, all those that just don't show up and don't vote in any way, shape or form. I'll give you an example. In my house, there's 3 of us that are eligible to vote. Me, my wife, my eldest son. I'm the only one that votes. So, you repeat that pattern everywhere. A lot drop off the side, don't they? You've got young that don't engage. You've got others that are just pissed off of it and don't bother. But it's a population thing, isn't it? You could have a seat with 20,000 people in, you could have a seat with 2,000 people in, and there's the disproportionality, and in the end, combination of all the factors, the establishment seems to win the day. We need to get these people out of this idea of if I vote anything else, I'm going to get Labour, or I'm not going to bother voting because there's no point. People need to break out of that system, I feel, to make a difference. It's a combination of things, definitely. Oh, the next one, Rebel 7722. Andy, why did you vote for the Reform Party? Well, I'll be honest, I was actually torn. I did vote Reform in the end, but I was torn between that and I do not consent. I'm not one that will not do anything, because at the end of the day, you have to use that piece of paper, although there's a lot of people that say it's pointless. I voted Reform because, as I said to a gentleman I was chatting to at this meeting the other day, I am anti-establishment by nature, but I'm looking for a solution. It's very apparent that what we have doesn't work anymore, and it hasn't done for a great number of years, and that's the most polite way I can put it, without the rozzers knocking on my front door. So I think to myself, do all of the people in this country turn around and say, I do not consent? Because at the end of the day, it's an English, or it was an English parliament that's effectively been hijacked by the Great British, and it's gone down the line where we are now, and a lot of people don't see that. And the whole establishment, or the whole political system in this country, does need a giant reset. But then I'm thinking, well, do we need some kind of reform first, albeit in the name of the Reform Party? They're either going to do it great or they're going to fuck it up totally. And then when it happens again, then do we get what we're after? It's a bit like what they do with their games. They don't throw it all to you all at once. They drip feed you so you get used to the idea, and then bang, give you what they're after. I feel the same way with voting. You can't just go straight for it. You've got to step at a time towards what we want. More people need waking up, and more people need to realize they've been, well, hogwashed for years. And, people are starting to wake up, I think. Phil, you've hit the nail on the head. Are people staying at home and not bothering, just lazy, or is it something else? Younger generation are just used to having it all done for them. I think more of the younger generation need to engage. I mean, with this meeting I went to, I was the youngest person there. I feel by a mile, and I'm 46, so fairly near 50. And at that age, I'm the youngest person in the room. And we were discussing this about the kids and the younger generation. And you look at the education that they're exposed to, and the way they're being bred to think, and coming into their lives. They need to engage. And they need to work it out for themselves. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a while, I think. Susan Morley, the younger generation doesn't subscribe to MSN like the BBC, so generally they have no interest in politics unless they have a university background. Those are nearly all left-leaning, so current Labour voting. Susan, as I said, it's a product of their education. Well, I mean, one thing when I went to university, yes, I did, by the way, I found a lot of people didn't have any common sense, which is a very valuable commodity in this world, isn't it? And some of the views which they came out with, a friend of mine was a political student. I'm friends with him on Facebook, even though I've not seen him in 30 years. We keep in touch. He's a Liberal Democrat, you can't win it all. But that's where it starts. That's where, these people need empowering. What's the saying? If not us, who? If not now, when? That's a very valid question. Jim, I voted Reform, and bloody proud I did. There were, when I went to this meeting, I was asked if I was going to film it, and I gave them a choice, and their preference was I don't, because they were generally worried about any repercussions from the far left or their employers or anything of that nature. But there's a lot of people who think, well, sod it. It's a bad world, isn't it, where we've got to the point where we're afraid of openly showing our political colours. Ian Slater, never be afraid of whoever you vote for. Reform all the way. Two people with bollocks, basically, right there. Graham, I stayed home and didn't vote. No point in Manchester. It's been Labour from as far back as I can remember. I was born here in 1957. People here are just sheep and vote Labour every time. I've given up on politicians. They're all a shower of shit, getting worse by Parliament and have been for decades. Again, the whole thing needs a reform. And you've got to ask yourself, why are they voting Labour? What's going on locally, or what's the history? Why have they voted Labour for all that time? Why can't they see that we have a massive problem? I mean, you look at some of the antics of the current lot. It's pretty scary. I could get arrested just for reading your comments. That's mad, isn't it? Sacragons, thank you for the interesting information. You're welcome. I reckon 3 years next general election. As long as that, huh? Sean Weston, it's called cancel culture. The establishment always uses fear to control dissenting voices. Remember the banking scandal of Nigel Farage? Oh, I do. And every little thing which they can use to bash Farage, they're doing it. I mean, what's the latest thing? Oh, he's earned more money than anyone else. Who gives a flying FUCK, He's on the news. He's done a bit of I'm a Celebrity. He's a fairly clued up bloke. This is typical socialism in action, isn't it? You can't earn more than them. We've all got to earn the same, or we're going to redistribute it. It's utter bollocks. I believe in hard work. You get rewarded, and it's the same with anybody. Same with anybody. AJQN6GD, during the election, I said that in 2 years' time, nobody will admit to voting Labour. I massively underestimated it. It's taken less than 2 months. I'm reading people who are regretting it quite a lot. Kevin, just a quick question. Where is the diversity in the Reform Party? Have a look at the current makeup, and that'll answer your question. In fact, the chairman of the Reform Party was actually interviewed on the telly the other day, if that's the kind of diversity you're talking about. Robert Fox, everyone below Gen X is oblivious and indoctrinated. Yeah, and, they've really got to re-educate themselves, or is it down to us to do it for them? I don't know. Lee Highland, Reform is going to turn out to be a waste of space. The Tory vote won't shift. They're never going to move to Reform. So where will Reform get the 6 million votes they need to win a general election? Farage said he's building towards the next general election, but he's clearly conning us. One of the things that come out of that meeting the other day is the general election is over there, back there somewhere in the far future. There's county council elections coming up very shortly, probably in the next year, I think, isn't it? That's where the attention needs to be, not over there at the moment. They've got no structure, no power base to build from, and, only the support of the people that voted for them. The Zimmer, Farage is a mate of Trump, so he's no friend of mine. Well, that's your opinion. You're entitled to it. God bless you. Raymond Webb, I didn't vote Reform and am proud. I won't ask who you voted for, but this is the thing, isn't it? We're all led by the hand. You must vote for, use this and use a bit of this. And, the people around you that won't vote or don't vote need to be encouraged to come out and actually voice their opinions. Really. Erwin Bragg, it's early days yet for Reform, and expect your ideas will come to fruition. I think something will in time. I've never known. I mean, as I said, 46. I've been politically aware for 25 years, I suppose. I've never known a time like this where so many people are so adamant that something's gone severely wrong. Squizzer, trouble with traditional party organisations is they inevitably become bureaucratic with chains of command, demarcation lines, internal disagreements and power struggles. This happened with the Brexit Party and UKIP, and that's the left's dream. Do we really want that? No, we don't. The bigger issue is the apathy you touched on. People voted Reform but never hear of them on the mainstream media. I fear only a complete revolution will sort this out. British democracy doesn't work. That thing in the mainstream media was actually addressed by Nigel Farage himself. I remember the video. It was a case of you get a relevant amount of media coverage according to how you did in the last election. Reform wasn't in the last election, so they didn't get anything. It's naturally biased straight away. Couple more comments. Thomas, I'm a Reform UK member and am embarrassed to admit that I don't feel able to publicise it, as my 2 grown-up children who are staunch lefties would be very critical, and I and my wife are worried that we might lose access to our precious grandchildren. That's awful. That really is awful. This is where politics is becoming very toxic and invading families and friendships. And I had a long-term friend of mine the other day called me a racist because I don't support the ideals of the current establishment. This is what's happening. I'm attending a meeting of Reform members in the Penrith and Solway constituency in early September to elect officials for the branch. Let's hope we can quickly build a grassroots organisation. That's what's happening here. And I know there's going to be another meeting soon. You know, I'll just keep you posted on that. The last one, I like this. Crazy Mark, just 2,500 more, Andy. You can do it. He, of course, is commenting on how far I am away from 100,000 subscribers, which is all down to you. I very much appreciate the support. There you go. There's a selection of your comments, and you know, we'll air your views, get them spoken about. Very much grateful for everything you say and do, even the bad ones. They help too, and you're all entitled to your opinion. So thank you. Please hit the like button on this, subscribe to the channel, share me on your social media. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Toodaloo.